The Galactic Council met in the Hall of Stars, a great circular chamber filled with light from the twin suns of the capital world. Delegates from every known species sat in their seats, their voices low but tense. For years, this chamber had been filled with the warm, steady presence of human ambassadors. Today, their seats were empty. It had started quietly. First, the human envoys stopped attending minor meetings. Then, cargo ships from Earth and its colonies ceased arriving at the central trade hubs. At first, no one thought much of it. Humans had always been independent, sometimes slow to respond to council requests, but as the weeks turned into months, the signs became impossible to ignore. Ambassador Loran of the Philarii was the first to raise the issue formally. He stood at the center platform, his long silver robe brushing the floor as he looked around the chamber. I request an explanation for humanity's absence. My sector reports that human-controlled trade stations have been abandoned. No ships, no staff, nothing but empty corridors and powered-down systems. Murmurs spread through the delegates. Council Speaker Valari, a tall, glass-skinned being from the world of Rith, tapped the podium. "Is there a representative from the Terran Union present?" she asked. The chamber remained silent. It was not just the council chambers. Across the galaxy, humans were vanishing from allied territories. Stations once bustling with human engineers now stood silent. Mining outposts, science labs, and diplomatic offices all left without warning. Even their embassies on member worlds were gone, doors locked, data cores wiped clean. No official message was sent, no explanation, only silence. On the third week of their absence, a single automated signal reached the Council from the Terran Union's last known diplomatic hub. The message was short and carried no personal touch. It read, "Effective immediately. The Terran Union withdraws from all Council operations. All existing treaties remain suspended. Do not enter restricted Terran space." The phrase restricted Terran space was new and chilling. It referred to a vast region on the edge of known space that humans had claimed long ago, but rarely visited. No one knew exactly what lay inside. It had been called the Quiet Zone for generations, a name born from the strange stillness surrounding it. For a time, the Council tried to reach them. They sent messages, envoys, even unarmed ships. None returned. Some were found drifting at the edges of the Quiet Zone, power drained and memory banks wiped. Others simply disappeared. Theories spread quickly. The Shaloran believed humans had been insulted by recent council disputes and decided to isolate themselves out of pride. The Vethri suspected they had discovered something valuable in the Quiet Zone and wanted it for themselves. The Orc delegation whispered darker ideas, that humans had known of a threat coming from the Outer Rim, something so dangerous that they needed to cut ties and prepare in secret. Yet among the oldest council members, there was a different memory. They remembered a time when humanity was still new to the stars, eager to learn but already holding back certain knowledge. They remembered a treaty, written decades ago, that forbade the council from accessing a particular device left in the capital vault. That device was linked to something only humans had built, a system they called the Safeguard. Nobody outside humanity knew exactly what it did. The treaty's one clear rule was simple: never activate the device unless authorized by the Terran Union. The device was said to be a single command panel, no larger than a desk, with one button. In its center. No one had dared to touch it, not until now. But for the moment, the button was just a whisper in the background. The council still hoped for answers. Weeks passed. The galaxy began to feel humanity's absence in ways no one expected. In the frontier sectors, pirate activity doubled. Without human patrol fleets, small worlds struggled to protect their trade routes. The humans had quietly been the peacekeepers in dangerous regions, not through force alone, but through the trust they had built among dozens of smaller powers. Without them, the balance was shifting. In the research districts, laboratories found themselves missing critical human components and expertise. Entire projects stalled because certain technologies had been supplied only by Terran engineers. These technologies were not just machines, they were ways of thinking, problem-solving approaches that other species could not easily replicate. Even in culture and diplomacy, their absence was felt. Humans had been uniquely skilled at bridging the differences between rival species. They had a strange ability to understand perspectives that others could not. Without them, council debates grew longer, colder, and more divided. Ambassador Loran, who had first raised the alarm, began to notice something else: fear. It was subtle, but it was there. Some delegates avoided speaking about humans entirely. Others lowered their voices whenever the subject came up. There was a shared sense that the Terran Union had not simply left. They had prepared for something. One evening, Loran sat in his quarters overlooking the city lights of the capital. A quiet knock came at the door. It was Speaker Vallari herself. "They are not just gone," she said, her glass-like eyes reflecting the light. "They are waiting." "For what?" Loran asked. Vallari hesitated. "You know of the treaty, yes? The one about the device." Loran nodded. "The button? Yes. I have been told something by my predecessor. The humans once said this to her: if we leave, do not call us back. If you press that button, the galaxy will never be the same." Loran frowned. "Then perhaps it is best we let them go. Forcing their return may be dangerous." Vallari looked toward the horizon, where the twin suns dipped behind the towers. "The trouble is," she said softly, "the council grows restless. And when beings grow restless, they stop listening to warnings." Far beyond the capital, in the quiet zone, a massive shadow moved across the darkness. Something vast and silent, drifting among the stars. It was not seen by the council, nor recorded by their sensors. Only in the dark corners of the galaxy did old rumors stir that the humans had not left to hide, but to watch, and to wait for the moment they would return. The days after the Council's official announcement about humanity's withdrawal were filled with unease. No one admitted it openly, but nearly every delegate knew the truth. The galaxy was weaker without the humans. On the capital world, the grand avenues were quieter. Human visitors, once common in the marketplaces, were nowhere to be found. Terran ships no longer docked at the orbital ports. The once lively trade district felt like a city after a festival. Empty stalls, closed gates, the echoes of conversations that had ended too soon dot in the council chamber. The topic refused to fade. Meetings that were meant to discuss border security or trade disputes inevitably circled back to the same question: why did the humans leave? Some, like the young Rishan delegate Tova, believed the reason was simple. "They tired of us," she said during one heated session. "Humans often seek new challenges." Perhaps the council no longer interested them. Others dismissed this. Elder Morth, a seasoned diplomat from the aquatic world of Valora, shook his head. "No, they left for a purpose. And I suspect that purpose lies within the Quiet Zone." The Quiet Zone, the very name carried weight in the chamber. It was a dark stretch of space where few dared to travel. No council maps showed its interior in detail. It was marked only with human warning beacons, each transmitting the same message in dozens of languages: do not enter. The restrictions were not enforced by patrols. They didn't have to be. Any ship that crossed into the Quiet Zone and returned, if it returned at all, came back powerless, its crew unable to recall what they had seen. That was enough to keep most explorers away. Ambassador Loran began compiling reports from the outer sectors. The pattern was troubling. Pirate fleets were growing bolder. Trade hubs that had once been stabilized by human negotiation were now contested by multiple powers. Worlds on the rim were sending desperate messages for aid. Messages that the council was too slow to answer. It was not just pirates. In the industrial belt near the Karth system, two member species went to war over mining rights. Before, humans would have mediated such disputes with speed and skill. Without them, the conflict escalated until entire asteroids were destroyed, sending debris into trade routes. The council tried to adapt. They sent more patrol fleets. They held longer debates. But for all their efforts, they lacked the quiet authority humans had carried into every negotiation. It was not only power. It was the way they could read tension in a room, the way they could see solutions no one else thought possible. In private, some delegates began to speak of the device. It was kept in the lower vaults beneath the Hall of Stars, secured by multiple layers of shielding and guard stations. Officially, it was just a relic from humanity's early years in space. Unofficially, it was a source of endless speculation. No one knew what would happen if the button was pressed. The treaty, signed by all members, was very clear. It was never to be activated unless the Terran Union itself authorized it, but with humans gone, that authorization seemed impossible. Rumors about its purpose spread in whispered conversations. Some claimed it was a distress beacon. Pressing it would summon the entire Terran fleet, wherever they had gone. Others believed it would unleash a hidden weapon, one so powerful it could destroy fleets in seconds. A few thought it might awaken something ancient within the Quiet Zone, something even the humans feared. One night, in a quiet corner of the Council archives, Ambassador Loran met with Speaker Velari. "You know as well as I do," Loran said. "That talk of the button is growing." Velari's glass-like features reflected the dim light. "Talk is not action," she replied. "And action is what will bring danger." "But what if the danger is already here?" Loran asked. He slid a datapad across the table. "Pirate fleets are building bases inside member territories. Trade convoys are vanishing. We have factions preparing for war. If humans were here, they could stop this. If the button truly summons them or destroys us," Velari interrupted. Loran leaned back, his expression troubled. "Then perhaps we are already destroyed, just slowly, piece by piece, far away from the capital." In the hidden depths of the Quiet Zone, vast structures slept. Some were the size of moons, built of dark alloys that absorbed light. They had been silent for decades, their systems dormant. But deep inside, faint lines of blue light flickered for a brief moment, as if reacting to distant conversations. In the council chamber, pressure was growing. Younger delegates saw themselves as bold visionaries. They spoke of action, of not being afraid to use what the humans had left behind. They saw the button as a solution, a way to take control of a chaotic galaxy. Older delegates urged patience. They remembered the exact wording of the human warning: "If you press that button, the galaxy will never be the same." To them, it was not a challenge but a shield, a final safeguard against a choice they might regret. The balance between these voices shifted daily. Each new crisis pushed more delegates toward the side of action. In the third month after humanity's withdrawal, an emergency meeting was called. A mining convoy in the Vethry sector had been completely destroyed. No survivors. The attack had been swift, coordinated, and left behind no trace of the attackers. As the chamber filled, Loran noticed something unusual. At the far side of the room, near the sealed entrance to the lower vaults, a group of younger delegates stood whispering to a security officer. Their faces carried a look he recognized, determination mixed with defiance. He turned to Velari. "They're going to push for it." Velari did not ask what he meant. She knew. For a moment, the great chamber seemed smaller, the air heavier. The long absence of humanity was no longer just an empty space in the Council's politics. It had become a growing wound, one that some were desperate to heal, even if it meant breaking the oldest treaty in galactic history. And somewhere, far beyond their sight, the Quiet Zone waited, silent, watching. The council chamber had grown tense in recent weeks. The tall crystal walls that once reflected the light of the twin suns now seemed to catch and hold the shadows. Conversations ended quickly when certain delegates entered. Voices lowered when the topic shifted to the device. It was no longer just whispered in corners. The question of the button had reached the main floor. The morning session began with a report from Admiral Vess of the Orc fleet. His scaled armor glinted under the light as he addressed the gathered members. "We have lost control of 3 border systems. Without the humans, we cannot hold the trade lanes. I request immediate action." From the Rishan side of the chamber, Tova stood. "We speak of action every day, Admiral. But all we do is send more patrols. We are trying to fight chaos with small ships and slow votes. If the humans left something behind, something powerful enough to end these threats, why do we let it gather dust in a vault?" A wave of murmurs moved through the delegates. Elder Morth from Velora shook his head slowly. Because it is not dust, young one. It is a locked door, and humans warned us never to open it. Warnings grow old, Tova replied. Perhaps they left because we refused to use it. Perhaps they wanted us to prove we could take responsibility. Ambassador. Loren watched the exchange carefully. He could feel the divide widening. On one side were the younger members, ambitious, impatient, eager to prove themselves. On the other side were the elders, cautious, bound to the memory of human words spoken long ago. Speaker Velari tapped the podium, her voice clear. We will not decide this through argument alone. A formal motion has been raised to discuss the device openly. We will hear all voices before a vote is set. The chamber doors opened, and the head of the vault guard entered. Commander, sir. A tall figure in deep silver armor carried a small holographic projector. He placed it on the center table. In the air above it shimmered. A simple image appeared. A round, metallic panel resting on a table of polished black stone. In the center of the panel sat a single circular button. No markings, no switches, no other controls. This, Sir said, is the human device stored beneath the Hall of Stars. It has remained untouched since the treaty was signed 82 years ago. Its systems are active, but dormant. We do not know its exact function. Only humans ever connected it to their networks. It looks harmless, someone muttered. Harmless as a mask, Morth replied. I have seen harmless things that could split moons. Sir continued. We maintain its power core, as required. By treaty, if the button is pressed, the device will send a signal. To where? We do not know. The humans never explained. The only information we were given is the warning. Do not activate without Terran approval. Tova leaned forward in her seat, and without Terran approval, we will do nothing forever. Is that the future of this council? The chamber broke into noise, voices calling for courage, others calling for restraint. Velari let the noise rise for a moment before striking the podium again. Enough. We will hear the final arguments, one for pressing the button, one against. Then we will decide whether to schedule a vote. Tova spoke for the motion. She painted a picture of a galaxy in decline, borders collapsing, trade routes falling into lawlessness, smaller worlds begging for help. She spoke of the humans' departure as a challenge, a test of the Council's will. Elder Morth spoke against it. His voice was steady, but there was weight in his words. He reminded the Council of the humans' history, how they had arrived in space with both open hands and closed secrets. He spoke of the trust that had been built over decades and how easily it could be destroyed. The humans did not ask us to guard the device for their sake, he said. They asked us to guard it for ours. When the arguments ended, the chamber fell into an uneasy silence. Outside, on the capital's great plaza, crowds had begun to gather. Word of the council's debate had spread quickly. Merchants, workers, and citizens from many worlds stood together, their faces lit by the tall display screens that broadcast public sessions. Some called for the button to be pressed. Others held signs urging patience. The air felt charged, as if the city itself was waiting for something to happen. In the vault beneath the Hall of Stars, the device waited as it always had. The soft hum of its core filled the quiet room. It did not look like a weapon. It did not look like a beacon. It looked like nothing at all. And yet, to some, it was everything. That night, Loren walked alone through the corridors leading to the delegates' quarters. The sound of his steps echoed off the smooth stone walls. At a balcony overlooking the plaza, he found Velari staring down at the crowds. They are hungry for action, she said without turning. And you? Loren asked. Velari's voice was calm, but he could hear the strain. I fear that pressing the button will bring something we cannot control. But I also fear what happens if we do nothing. The galaxy is shifting. Waiting may no longer be a choice. In the sky above the capital, ships from dozens of species drifted among the stars. Some were far beyond them, beyond the mapped borders, beyond the quiet zone. Humanity was out there, watching, waiting, and perhaps listening. The Hall of Stars was silent when Speaker Velari entered. Every delegate was present, their expressions tight and unreadable. Even the air seemed heavy. as if the chamber itself understood what was about to happen. It had taken weeks of debate to reach this moment. Arguments had been made, warnings repeated, and reports of worsening conditions throughout the galaxy had been read aloud again and again. The decision could no longer be delayed. This session, Velari began, her voice carrying across the room, will decide the fate of the device. We vote not on what it will do, for none of us know that. We vote on whether to press the button. Her words fell into the silence like stones into deep water. Admiral Vest stood first. If the humans left because they were unwilling to lead, then we must lead ourselves. We face dangers greater than any fleet we command. The button may be our only chance to restore. Order of Elder Morth followed. The humans did not leave because they were unwilling to lead. They left because they knew what the galaxy could become. Pressing the button may not bring safety. It may bring an end. No more speeches were given. The time for words had passed. The council's voting platform was a great ring that circled the chamber. Each delegate would place their hand, or equivalent limb, into the glowing recess before them. Blue light for yes, red light for no. The result would appear instantly on the central display. One by one, the votes came in. Yes, yes, no, yes, no, yes. The light shifted between blue and red in an uneven pattern, the balance swaying back and forth. The crowd gathered outside the Hall of Stars. Watch the results broadcast on the plaza's towering screens. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. Finally, the last delegate placed their hand in the recess. The display froze, then turned a deep shade of blue. Yes, Velari said quietly. By a narrow margin, the motion passes. The device will be activated. There was no cheer, no applause. The decision hung in the air like a storm that had yet to break. Commander Sir entered with the same silver armor he had worn during the last presentation. The vault will be opened, he said. The delegates rose from their seats and followed him through the great doors. At the rear of the chamber, they descended into the lower levels of the Hall of Stars. Through corridors of reinforced stone and metal, the air grew cooler as they walked, and the hum of the city above faded until only the sound of their footsteps remained. Finally, they reached the vault. A massive circular door, engraved with the seal of the Terran Union, stood before them. It had not been opened in 82 years. Sir placed his palm against a small scanner. Opening sequence, he said. The door's locking bolts withdrew with a deep metallic groan. The vault's interior was smaller than most expected. In the center of the room stood a single table, its surface polished and black. Upon it rested the device, a round metallic panel, smooth and simple, with a single circular button in the center. For a long moment, no one moved. This is it? Tova asked softly. This is what we have feared for decades. Morth's eyes narrowed. And what you now wish to use? Sir stepped forward. By the decision of the council, the button will be pressed. Who will do it? A quiet ripple passed through the group. No one wanted to volunteer, yet no one wanted to show fear. Finally, Velari stepped forward. It is the council's choice, she said. It should be my hand. She approached the table. The button gleamed faintly under the vault's light. She placed her hand above it, hesitated for one breath, then pressed down. A soft click. That was all. No alarms, no light, no tremor in the floor. The button sank slightly under her touch and then returned to its place. Is that it? Tova asked, a note of disappointment in her voice. Sir checked the small handheld display. The device has transmitted a signal. Destination unknown. And what happens now? Vess asked. We wait, Sir said. They left the vault in silence, the door sealing behind them. Above, in the skies of the capital, nothing seemed different. Ships continued their slow drift through orbit. The sun still shone. Citizens went about their business. To anyone who did not know, the day was like any other. But somewhere, far beyond the borders of mapped space, a network of ancient human satellites flickered to life. Their dormant systems reactivated in sequence, passing the signal along paths hidden from all known star charts. In the dark expanse of the quiet zone, massive structures awoke. Dark panels unfolded like the petals of mechanical flowers. beams of scanning light swept across empty space. Engines the size of cities rumbled to life for the first time in decades. The signal reached its final destination, a place no alien ship had ever seen, deep within a nebula of shifting blue clouds. There, a fleet rested in silence, each vessel the length of a small moon. Their hulls were black, absorbing all light, and their shapes were unlike any Council design. When the signal arrived, their systems powered on. Navigation lights blinked. Weapons arrays hummed. Engines began to glow. A voice, calm, measured, unmistakably human, spoke into the silence of the fleet. Containment protocol breached. Response authorized. Back on the capital world, the Council returned to their seats. They told themselves that nothing had happened, that perhaps the device had been a bluff all along. Yet in the shadows of the chamber, some delegates could not shake the feeling that something vast had just begun to move. The galaxy had not yet changed, but it would. The air in the Council chamber felt heavier than usual as the last message from the outer colonies echoed in everyone's minds. The holographic display showed the star systems blinking red one by one. It was not an enemy attack, it was silence. Human stations, human patrol routes, human embassies, all gone dark without warning. Councillor Marek sat still in his seat, hands folded. He had been one of the few who, weeks earlier, had argued against pressing the control key on the deep security console. But the others had voted, and the button had been pressed. Now, even he didn't know what consequences it had unleashed. General Thurn, the oldest of the military leaders, leaned forward. We have searched our entire database. Whatever that control activated is not listed. I believe it was locked information, stored long before the Council was formed. We may have awakened something we cannot face. Marek met his gaze, or someone. He said quietly. The meeting shifted when one of the technicians rushed in with a datapad. His voice was uneven. We intercepted a strange signal near the old archives. The frequency matches a human transmission pattern from centuries ago. But here's the problem. It's coming from inside our own vault system. The room went silent. The old vault system was the Council's most secure data chamber, sealed and buried deep beneath their capital. Only emergency protocols could open it, and no one alive had access to those codes. Marek stood up. Show me. Minutes later, Marek and a small security team descended into the vault tunnels. The air grew colder, the lights dimmer, the walls bore marks of repairs from centuries-old construction. At the final sealed gate, a holographic control screen glowed faintly. It displayed a single phrase in old human text, "Stand by. Retrieval in progress." None of them knew what was being retrieved. While the engineers worked on decoding the message, Marek noticed the strange design etched on the gate. It was a symbol, a human star emblem surrounded by 13 smaller stars. He remembered it from ancient treaty records. It was the emblem of the first human alliance, the one that predated even the Council. As they stood there, the gate made a deep mechanical sound. It wasn't being opened from their side. It was unlocking itself. The steel plates slid apart with a slow grind. Cold mist spilled into the hallway. Beyond the gate was a dark chamber lined with cylindrical containers, each one glowing faintly with blue light. Inside each container was a figure, not alien, but human. They were wearing old military armor, and each figure stood perfectly, still as if frozen in time. One of the engineers stepped forward. These are cryopods, active ones. Whoever they are, they're not dead. Before Marek could respond, the closest pod hissed. Frost slid down its surface as it opened. A human stepped out, his armor unmarked by time, his eyes sharp and focused. He looked around slowly, then fixed his gaze on Marek. "You press the key," the man said, his voice calm but carrying a weight of command. "The Sentinel protocol is now active." Marek hesitated. "Who are you?" "I am Commander Vance, of the 1st Human Alliance Defense Fleet, and if the key has been pressed, it means the Council has broken the pact." Behind Vance, more pods began to open. Marek felt the cold in his chest. He had read whispers of the pact, an agreement that humans had forced upon the first alien coalitions after a war. That nearly ended the stars themselves. The pact demanded one thing, that the key to awaken the Sentinels never be touched, unless every other option had failed. General Thrawn arrived behind them, his eyes narrowing as he saw the humans stepping out. "This is impossible. You were supposed to be gone." Vance turned his gaze toward Thrawn. "We never left. We waited. And now, we will finish what we started." The chamber shook slightly as heavy machinery deep within the vault came to life. Somewhere above, Marek could hear faint alarms from the city streets. Vance stepped closer to Marek. "Tell your council, their time is over. The humans are taking back what was ours." And with that, the other awakened soldiers fell into perfect formation, their armor catching the faint blue light of the vault. For the first time in centuries, the Sentinels of humanity were awake. The council had pressed the one button they were never meant to touch. The streets of the capital were alive with murmurs and hurried footsteps. The news spread fast. Human fleets had awakened. The Sentinels were no longer just legends or frozen statues in a vault. They were awake, and they were moving. Ambassador Loran stood in the council chamber, his eyes fixed on the large holographic map that showed the galaxy's borders. Red dots blinked rapidly, signaling human-controlled vessels emerging near key systems. The quiet that had once filled council meetings was replaced by a tense energy. The question was no longer if humans would return, but how. General Thrawn's voice broke the silence. "Their ships are unlike anything we have seen, advanced, fast, and silent. Our patrols have tried to intercept, but they move with precision and without aggression." Loran frowned. "If they don't attack, then what is their goal?" Before anyone could answer, the chamber doors opened. Commander Vance entered, flanked by several fully armed Sentinels. His armor reflected the soft light, and his eyes held a calm determination. "I am here to speak for the First Human Alliance," Vance said. "The Council's decision to press the button was a breach of the pact. We have returned to restore order." There was a stir among the delegates. Some stood. Others remained seated, all watching the newcomers carefully. Vance continued, "The galaxy has grown chaotic in our absence. Pirates, corrupt officials, and factions threaten peace and stability. Our presence is not to conquer, but to protect and govern under a new accord." Loran stepped forward. "Many fear this new accord will be a form of control, not protection." Vance nodded. "That fear is understandable, but the Accord's goal is balance. We will not destroy, but we will enforce outside." The human fleet continued to spread across key trade routes and planets. On distant worlds, citizens watched. In awe as massive black ships settled into orbit, their sleek forms unlike any they had known. For some, the return of humanity brought hope. For others, fear. Back in the council chamber, Valari spoke, her voice steady. "The galaxy has changed. The question is, can we work together in this new era?" Vance looked around the room. "We will extend a hand to those willing to join the Accord, but make no mistake, resistance will be met with quarantine." The meeting ended, but the galaxy was only beginning to feel the ripple effects of the humans' return. On a quiet planet at the edge of the quiet zone, a young pilot watched the stars through a cracked viewport. He whispered to himself, "The humans have returned. What will become of us all?" The Sentinels were awake. The humans were back, and the galaxy would never be the same. The galaxy had changed forever. The return of the humans was no longer a secret or a warning. It was a reality that every world had to face. The Great Council, once the center of galactic law and order, had been replaced by a new authority, the Accord. Commander Vance stood on the bridge of the flagship Sentinel, overlooking the vast assembly of ships from human and allied fleets. The black holes gleamed under the light of distant stars, a silent promise of strength and order. The human voice was calm but firm as it addressed the gathered officers. "The Accord is not an empire," Vance said. "It is a guardian. We are here to protect, to rebuild, and to bring balance to a galaxy once torn by chaos. We offer peace, but we will act firmly against those who choose disorder." The message spread quickly. Many smaller worlds welcomed the Accord's arrival. They had suffered for years with lawlessness and conflict. Human technology and discipline promised safety and prosperity. Trade routes reopened under the protection of sentinel fleets. Disputes that once threatened to ignite wars were resolved swiftly. However, not all accepted the new order willingly. Some older species and factions saw the Accord as a threat to their independence. Secret councils met in shadows, plotting resistance. But the humans had prepared well. Their reach was long, and their patience was strong. Ambassador Loran, once a voice of caution in the old council, now served as a liaison between the Accord and the remaining independent worlds. He often walked the busy halls of the Sentinel, observing the calm determination in the eyes of the crew. One evening, he stood on a balcony overlooking a bustling trade station, recently secured by the Accord. Ships from many species docked side by side. Merchants, scientists, and diplomats moved freely, no longer fearful of pirate attacks or sudden raids. Loran thought about how much had changed since humanity's silent withdrawal. The galaxy had been left in turmoil, but now it was healing. The Accord was strict but fair. It demanded order, but it also offered hope. Yet, he could not ignore the whispers of unrest. He knew that peace built on control could be fragile. The old fear remained, that too much power in one hand might lead to tyranny. One day, Vance called Loran to his quarters. The commander's voice was measured. The galaxy is not yet united, but it moves towards stability. We will continue to offer alliance and protection. Those who accept will prosper. Loran nodded. And those who do not, isolation or quarantine, Vance replied. We cannot allow chaos to return. Outside the windows, stars glowed like ancient eyes watching over them. The galaxy was vast and full of secrets, but now it had a new guardian. The humans had returned silently once again. But this time, they stayed. The future was uncertain. But one thing was clear. The galaxy belonged to no one and everyone at the same time. It was a place where old rivalries faded under the light of a new dawn. And the humans were at the heart of that dawn.